Funny you should say that there, Lucky. I remember getting blocked one time and joining the rob by an accident.
Choo choo, bubble.
Sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody!
What is happening, lads? How are we getting on? What is the story? Welcome on Steam Train, welcome on McKins, welcome on Hook. What is the crack? Much excite. I'm looking forward to this one. It's one I've been kind of putting off for a little while, but as soon as I start streaming, or as soon as I start doing anything, that dog bursts in the door. I swear to gosh, what's happening? Cleo, no, go away. Sierra, what is happening? Flemish? Tell me fuck up. I talk too much, and if I talk too much about this game, I will, because I know what you're like. You get too excited and you be all like, I must tell you the thing. And I imagine you sit there in your chair going, I know the answer. There is potential that I'll just make Sierra a mod and get her the venue. And then put on a wee mod note that you were talking about inappropriate stuff and just give you a really bad name, start spreading vicious rumors about you. I haven't played Resident Evil 2 yet. It's the remake I'm playing. I played the original back in years ago. So I played, I'll turn my volume down a wee bit, looks like it's peaking a bit. I played Silent Hill Wall, Silent Hill 2, and then didn't play Downpour, didn't play 3. I played the Room as well. I enjoyed that one. There as a mod would be diabolical. I know, it would be fucking brilliant, wouldn't it? But that's the threat. That's what's going to happen if he messes. Never spoil anything, but if you want to know something, or if there's something I will. I know. I'll ask for help if I need it, which I probably will do at some stage. to be fair. But I was sitting there, I was recording some voice lines this morning, and every time I went to talk, the dog kept bounding into the room. So there's no filters or anything on it for the voice lines. So all I heard was her clapping along the floor, running up to me. And I was like, oh, see you, dog. See you. Well, I wish it would timed out constantly. It would. I didn't mean help. I meant lore-wise. Right. Right, okay. Okay. Well, it's a hull. The hull's very silent, I think. That's all the lore that we need to know. I made myself a fucking iced coffee there before I started. That's fucking beautiful. It's chocolate and hazelnut flavored. That's amazing. It's amazing. Never played this one much excited. It's on PlayStation Network. That's what I'm playing it on. Chrono Trigger. NPCs on Chrono Trigger. I got word back that the character I was doing needed to be more like rough and rugged, and I ended and still have a Northern Ireland accent, so I just ended up sounding like Uncle Andy out of Hole in the Wall gang. Yeah, as he walks up a hill, you can hear every footstep. He's like, shh, silent, it's a silent hill. It's a silent hill. Silent mound, more like. Yeah, I was going a few times. Well, someday though. Maybe the OG. The OG. You played the Silent Hill 1. You played the OG for that, didn't you? And I know a few people, I think Ian played Downpour. Play Remake. OG's not worth it now. OG's still good.
At Backlash? Backlash. At
Fucking
Backlash.
At Backlash.
At Backlash. Backlash.
I was told to do that. You were told to do it.
At Backlash.
At Backlash. At Backlash.
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 I think I would have made a wonderful wrestler. That's my new favorite routine. Is it? Good, good, good. I enjoyed making it. To be fair, it's not my idea. I stole from Danhausen. He did the same thing. Oh, the most routine I've ever seen. Danhausen did it, and then I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if I just copied exactly what he did. Oh, but I thank you for coming on, folks, tonight. So I'm going to play Silent Hill 2. That's going to be the new Thursday-Saturday game. God knows how long it's going to take me to get through it, because I will probably get lost and die a lot. OG is good, but you have the option of Remake, which is superior in every way. Yeah, there's a few games like that. Like, I much prefer the Remake to Resident Evil 2. But the OG still is very good. Resi 4 OG still good compared to its remake as well. So, you know, they're both, the remakes have definitely improved upon an already stellar game. And that's the thing. Why am I... Your home comfort survey invitation? What the fuck spam bullshit am I getting now? It's actually the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's not supposed to be funny. It's me being serious as a wrestler. I don't know why you're laughing at it. OG or R2, 3, or 4, unless you have nostalgia for them. Felt like I was going to burp there, but I didn't. But, yeah. So, going to play some Resident Evil 2, or... fuck it! Not Resident Evil 2. Silent Hill 2. It's going to be our Thursday, Saturday game for the next wee while until we finish it. We'll play over the game now. Before I start. Well, too late. Ah, I've already started. Look at that. Look at that. We've started now. Can't do nothing. Let's be fucking clear on one thing. You love Resident Evil 6. Loop theory is not canon. They fucking haven't even started the game and you've already started with spoilers. My fucking god. He's already started. Jesus. Come anywhere, hey. Can't take him anywhere. It's not a spoiler because it isn't canon. But now we know that loop theory isn't canon, so it spoiled the possibility of loop theory. Can't believe he did this. Ban him! It's a stupid theory that people who like to think they're intelligent believe in. I love the monster design in this game. I'll do it. Do what? Hit him? Just ban him. Just ban him. Batter him. What's my graphic mode? 90s? No, no, I don't want 90s. It's too washed out. Interface preset. Retro. Modern. Standard. Puzzles. Standard. Hard. Combat. Standard. Yeah, just go with standard. Go with standard and stuff. There, put him in the box somewhere. Take his TV away from him. Kick him off the Wi-Fi. Take his bank card off him. That'll sort him. Press any button to play. Also takes a lot away from the story and reduces the impact of things. Oh, now we know where there's things that have impact, for fuck's sake. Flamash, what are you doing? I'm not going to play this now. No, you just ruined the whole game for me now. There's no loop theory. There's impact. Why didn't you tell us that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time in Sixth Sense? Just stop typing. Throw something at him. Look at young James here. He's not typing. That's how you don't do it. Was Bruce Willis in a wig the whole time? Was he in a wig? My bank card stopped working today. It says expired, which I shouldn't. I rang for help and they said you should have got a new card last month. Didn't get in contact. So, see, I use my phone for a lot of stuff as well, so it just kind of eliminates that. Oh, look, hook with a band hammer. Always Sunny reference, right? Okay. Never played this ever. There's a song in it which is phenomenal. Right? Okay. I don't know of any song. Hook, was that a spoiler? Was that a spoiler, Hook?
Mary.
Stupid Bank of Ireland. Cracking deals, what's happening? Welcome in. Let me know about the game's audio and stuff. I haven't tested this one yet. You got your nappies on for this game, Leyoric? I don't know. I need some sort of fan fiction that would instruct me on how to do that. Well, there's a song playing. Hook, I don't appreciate that attitude. You're making me feel like a silly sausage and feel sad now. And if I had hair, I would use it to wipe my tears.
I see that town.
Not much. Went out last night and didn't get home until 8:30 this morning. You absolute rebel. I couldn't do it. I would have to go home to go to bed.
But you never did.
If the bit fits.
Well, I'm alone there now.
Hook,
In our
you know, I've always
special
looked up to you. But, you know what?
Waiting for
I'm going
you.
back to you now when I see you. Hurting my feelings. Fuck, it's a really nice coffee and I can't even have any more of
I
it.
got a letter.
Does Hook not look up to you? No, I am 5'10",
Mary.
and Hook is 7'3", as the
My
song
wife's
states. And they wouldn't put it in a song if it wasn't true.
It's ridiculous.
Same way Hook's milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Possibly be true.
He just makes a really good
That's
milkshake.
what I keep telling myself. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for her?
I'm sorry, but if your wife died 3 years ago and then she contacted you to come to some weird, creepy town, you wouldn't go.
What could she mean? This whole town.
Exactly.
was our
Waffles wouldn't
special
lie, and he
place.
made the song, that's true. If Waffles found there was something he could slag
Mary
Hook
really
off
be
about,
here?
he would, but his height isn't one of it.
Is she really alive?
No, James, she's dead, you muppet.
Waiting for me?
Also, what would have happened is James would have got the call from his wife, and she'd be like, I'm alive! And he'd be like, prove it. And she goes, when you go to the shop, I don't want anything, but if you don't bring me anything, I'll be angry. It's for most people. Can I poo? Can I pee? What's going on in here? Very dark, isn't it? Is it supposed to be that dark? It is supposed to be, right, okay. Thought it was maybe the capture card playing up or something. What's this say? What's this say? I am Decay? Right, okay. Cool beans. Fair play. Fair play. You be Decay. I'll be the J. Right. Can I just get my car and go? Is this my car? Holy fuck, that is loud. What is loud? Ooh, what's this? Can I pick it up? The map. Okay, so open map. The check-in is too loud. Right, okay. Let me reduce the volume meter on it. But I haven't changed the volume on the check-in. I know I'm loud, but it's fucking loud. As loud as Kyle Reese clapping Sarah Connor's cheeks. Ban him! Ban him. He did it. He did it. He brought up Terminator. Ban him. He did the thing. Video mode. Check-in. Yeah, because it's exact. The volume on this has never been changed. Boom, boom, boom. Wait, I swear to God, don't stop staring at me. Boom, boom, boom. Bum, 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 bum. So what's the do? Does this, does that. Plays the sound. Get global. Action, slide in. Where do you live? I know, Sarah. What are we gonna do him though? Bum, bum, bum. Slide in. Get global. You get global, I'll get global. Make text. Dynamiter. Right, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at this. I probably shouldn't have got off on a tangent because Flemish started complaining about the audio again. I thought that was quite lame. It's just the fact that you keep bringing up Terminator. Which you've been proven to be wrong about several times. Right, back to the game. Can I just leave? Is there a run button? Nope, that's not run. Ooh, that's run. There we go. Sweet, we're running. Like, this is... Ooh, there's stuff in here. This is what I would do if I came here. I would just leave. You got this in fidelity mode? Probably. I do. Oh, it doesn't like... Oh, yeah, no, I can see freedom. It's over there. Dear, how do you love how he complains about everything? Hey, Jesus, the man is never happy. Let's over this way. The only time I've ever seen that man happy, and he just would talk about how happy he is when he was playing Resident Evil 6. He buys me nice things. Surely that's just manipulation then at this point. See? That is the most true emote ever. He does love Resident Evil 6 and pineapple. Ban this woman? I don't think so. I don't think so. She's the boss here. Christina, what's happening? What's wrong with pineapple? Nothing except that once Flamash was eating pineapple on stream, and it became the icon for that VOD. And it's just him in a very, very precarious position eating the pineapple. And that's exactly what it's exactly the pose that's in that emote there. But welcome on. Not a damn thing. Yeah, Sierra, send it. Send it. Fucking hilarious. Actually, you know what? I think I have it. I think I have it. Sorry, I am not playing a game here because I keep getting distracted. Wasn't Flumrush? Oh, it was Flumrush sent it to me. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Just so we have context, so just so we know what it's all about. This image here, this is what his VOD image was. Blimosh eating pineapples. Now the VOD. Twitch did me dirty. Yeah, I did. I'm not going to disagree. You look like a wild animal that's like just chewing on a carcass. You hope they had the whole pineapple in his look at his eyes. I know it's just sheer feral intensity that he's eating that pineapple with. Man loves it. Man fucking loves it. I was reading chat at the same time. Sure you were. Sure you just were really enjoying that pineapple. Pineapples. Right, back to the game. And now he wonders why I refuse to eat while streaming. Most people refuse to eat while streaming. I don't mind having a, drinking something while streaming, but I would never eat while streaming because there'd be too many noises. Thing is, I didn't think it would escalate to become shared with people. Everything you do becomes escalated enough to share with people. Ooh, what's this? Why am I is this a save thing? Well.
Someone's groping around my skull.
Tomac made a cartoon version and now it's my phone background and Flamash calls me. Yes! Look at him. Oh. The save points are all about self-reflection. I know a thing, I have to say it. Remind yourself. Right. There's really only one path here. Somebody's gatekeeping content. Oh, look at us. It's herself. Bit of a grave situation here. This place people are dying to get into.
I'm sorry. I was just...
Hey, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
She was taking a headstone for granted.
Yeah, I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with this fog, but there's only the one road. You can't miss it.
Thanks.
But...
Everybody knows now it's McKen's 91's his Discord.
Stay
Quick,
away.
send him stuff.
At Backlash? Backlash.
Town, there's something
At Backlash.
wrong with it. And it's not just the fog
Backlash.
either.
At Backlash.
Is it dangerous?
Maybe.
Backlash.
It's kind of hard to explain,
At
but
Backlash.
I'm not lying.
At Backlash.
No, I believe you.
There's all my points going again.
Backlash.
I don't care if it's dangerous or not.
I just realized that in this scene,
Going either way.
I changed my camera over to the side because I didn't want to reverse it because my t-shirts look fucked up. And then I didn't want to be facing away from the game. So now they are on my face. They are on my face.
I'm looking for my mama.
That's my new favorite
My
redeem.
mother. It's been
The
so
fuck?
long
I know.
since
It's
I've
that time
seen
I was
her.
at Backlash. You wouldn't know.
I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either.
What? First time I made a nice coffee and it's beautiful.
I'm sorry, it's not your
I don't know what this
problem.
girl was chatting about
No,
because someone was shouting at Backlash. Kind of weird that they're in this graveyard and some guy screaming at Backlash.
You too.
Backlash.
Tell me what you want.
Treat, bitch.
Oh, excuse me? No. What do you say?
Bitch.
No.
Yeah,
no.
I'm about to fix it.
I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please. 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 Bitch. Please.
If I move it over a bit, that should fix it. We hope. Unless there's some full screen one and it kind of really fucks up then. Ah well, we'll be fine. Through our stream in Leyoric, we'll make it to the entrance to Hell and Hell. That's right, this is true. This is true. And it's not my fault. It's interruptions from you guys. Flamos, you're part of the problem. And there's a puppy. Yeah? Yeah? Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. Meow. Nom 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 nom. She does this now though, that's what I was saying. Whenever I do any sort of speaking at the computer, whether it's be playing games, doing recording, or fucking streaming, she comes looking at me going, "Where's my treat? Why has no one redeemed my treat yet?" All in the name of fun. That is true. That is true. It is all in the name of fun. Alright, we're trying to play WoW and have been stood beside a portal as we derail you. Fair play. Why not? As much as I give off, I appreciate you being here. I'm good at that though. Right. Can I go in the church? Is that a thing? I don't even know what that wee girl said to me. I wasn't listening to a word she said. You don't give up about me though, so it's all good. Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. To be fair, I don't actually give off about Flamash. I just enjoy winding them up. It's my new favourite thing to do. So, the way that kind of looped around that cemetery, is that the start of the loop theory? Sometimes I forget if I'm being bullied or not. No. It's... See, you have to give me grief back. Oof, fuck you up. See there! See there! There we go. Loop theory's a whole lot of shit. I'll loop theory you. You have to give it back, though. You have to start giving me grief back. Because then it feels more like bullying. I was going to tell a joke about this crap here, but it seemed a bit corny. Can I go through the gate? No. No. James, we can't go through there. What are you doing? Silent Hill Ranch. That must be where they make all that sauce for them chicken wings. I got more bits! Thank you very much for the bits, and the Gigantified Flemish loves RE6 because we all know it's true. Used to be me in every stream I went onto. You've taken the mantle of grief now, so pass it on. Who are you going to pass it on to? Who's going to be the next person to get all the grief? Just want the more vibe. I appreciate you, thank you very much, but you don't have to spend money in here. We can just talk about his love of Resident Evil 6, and that'll be everything. Jamie, what's happening? What's the story? I feel like you both get it, though. You know who? Just won't be in a chat. Oh, I know who. I do know who. I do know. Although, no, there's nothing, there's no redeeming there. No. No. To be fair, I do get a sore touch at times. Not as much anymore. Really not as much anymore. Would you look at all this? I seen the greatest description for books the other day as well. Someone was talking about how you tattoo on the flesh of dead trees. I do get a fair bit of grief. It's mostly for fuck's sake, Leyoric. Oh, dad jokes. Oh, Jesus, awful dad jokes. But the bald stuff as well, I suppose. No items. Right, okay. Fuck's sake. I'm not in the game. What? What are you talking about? What's all the W's as well? What game? What are we talking about? They're all jealous because you're famous, Nudley. Yeah, that's true. That was true. We all get very jealous at that.
Hello?
Alright, that
Anyone
seems
in
like it's
here?
where I'm supposed to go, so I'm going to go explore the other side. I was trying to move him, wow, but I was still in your Twitch chat. Ah, right, okay, so you were trying to go forward, and now we know. He was holding forward, I know, look at him. WASD. Right, okay. Well, I should have gone down in my estimations. I know he calls himself a real gamer too. Not even using a control pad for World of Warcraft. Implies I was high in them. I don't know why I need to rotate this. It's just a fucking key, but oh well. So I'm assuming this is for the gate now then. Is the volume better on that now? I have to move that whole thing over. No. Is everybody else that isn't Flemish, is it incredibly loud? Pretty sure my eardrums just exploded. Sounds fine to you. Like you have Irish? Depends who you ask. I know Flemish seems to be the issue when it comes to all this. Which has me wondering. Where was the scroll? Was it in the alerts? Not in that one. Not in that one. Not in this one either. Loud from an next door neighbor? Probably not. It's true. Where is it? Checking one. Ah, there it is. There you are. I think because it mostly resides here, it should be fine to move over a bit. There we go. That should do it. That should do the job. I didn't anticipate to have everything coming in from the left-hand side of the screen. It's just a check-in. Jamie, what is the crack for you as well? How are you getting on? Why did you move to the left? Because my camera, whenever I'm playing the game, I was looking the other direction, but I didn't want to flip my image again because it makes my t-shirts all backwards then. I know it's a stupid reason, but you know what? I'm all about the stupid reasons. Reason, the milk chocolate chip. So the sign in runs that, puts up the level by 1. Check an icon, check a name. Slide in. Action, slide in. If you had your game on, yeah, that would fix it, but I like to have my OBS over there. See, the thing is, this monitor's my ultra wide, so it means I can have my game, my chat, my actions, and my ads all on the one screen, and they all are quite big with plenty of room. That means I don't have to look too far. They keep up with chat and stuff. Used auto parts key. Okie dokie. Right. So far, what did everybody think of the Summer Games Fest last night as well? Has everybody caught up with? They've got their squelchy noises down. Actually, send me a screenshot of how you set that up on your screen, by the way. You want a screenshot of this? No, I'll send it to you now. You know what? I could just put it in the chat, couldn't I? Or I could just put it in the stream. We save it. Save it here. Bum, ba-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. And we override this wonderful image of Flamash eating a pineapple. Look at him. He just fucking loves that pineapple. Jesus, he loves that pineapple. Pineapple's class. And ooh, fuck, it's massive. I don't hear that very often. So that's the way I have it, my ultra wide. So I have my game in the middle. I have my chat on the right hand side, my ads on the bottom, and then on the left hand side I have my activity feed. Summer Games Fest was 5 out of 10. I enjoyed it. Jesus. I missed an hour of it, but I got caught up in the last part. Code Veronica can't wait. Last Ronin confirmed. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that looked good. Of your entire screens. I'm just excited for Black Flag. Clearly, you missed the Monster Hunter expansion announcement. That is also true. I was messaging Happy Irish about it. Very excited about that. The pineapple was good, to be fair. Pineapple normally is. Hard of a bad pineapple. Oh, and James Bond expansion. Yeah, well, I have to finish the full game first before I get to the expansion. Guild Wars 3 come to console and PC, as well as PC. I think it was just PS5 though. It wasn't Xbox. It was just PS5 and PC. It was coming out. Looks like Scaramanga is coming as part of the story. Right, okay. And OBS on your monitor on your left. Yeah, OBS is on my right-hand monitor. So that's the way I like to do it. Just means I can see everything on the one screen and I'm not looking about too much. What's this? We did see Xbox Showcase 6 PM tomorrow for us. Result, I know. Hopefully we get to see something about the Halo remake and that. I know they said that they weren't going to show anything, but I was still a bit surprised that GTA 6 hasn't shown much at all. Who cares about Xbox when you have a PC? I still care about Xbox. I love my fucking Xbox. Just curious what the layout is all. Oh, no, that's grand, man. Probably not the most optimal layout. I've gone back to the... I did have one of my monitors portrait, but I've now changed it back to landscape. Game Pass will have a lot of the games you can play on your PC. I know. Star Wars, Zero Company, Crossfire, Gen Atlas looked good. That looked very good. Rockstar don't really go to events too often. They don't, and to be fair, they don't need to. I just want to see more about Grand Theft Auto. Crossfire gave me Army of Two vibes. And was your woman voiced by Alana Pierce in that as well? There was bits of it. As well. I just called into like Ian's chat and stuff. Because I sat down, I wasn't on Twitch when I was watching it. I sat down and watched it with my son. But see when Ben Starr came onto the screen, I went on the Ian's chat and he just immediately went, oh, Leyoric, oh, he'll be talking about Ben Starr. And I was like, yes! Ben Starr. But it was just the announcement that he's on Fortnite, which I wasn't overly happy with. Look, I miss RB2. RB2 and Kane and Lynch as well. And then, just when the Final Fantasy Part 3 came out as well. I'm mostly good, but I enjoy Game Pass. Sometimes sitting in the living room. Oh yeah, sure, I bought 007. I bought that on Xbox, so I can play it on PC, and then my kid can play it on Xbox as well. It's listed on streams, single player. Anyone in chat, they said the same Big Army 2 vibes. Yeah. Is it? I didn't know it was down single player. I thought it was multiplayer. It'll be a shame if they miss out on that, because that's a demographic that nobody's really going for anymore. Everyone seemingly did. Oh, fuck, right, okay. Well, that's gonna be a bit silly. Right, what's down here? Yeah, I suppose there's a barrel laughs, isn't it? The Road Runner. Beep beep. Do we have any post? No, no post. Pre-alpha at the moment. Yeah, yeah. And I really like that Stellar Blade expansion that they showed, but then at the same time I was like, I've never played Stellar Blade, and it kind of put me off it because it was a bit too wet looking. The lady in it looked a bit too moist, and I was like, nah, I'm not a fan of the over sexualization of it. But then that expansion or the sequel or whatever they showed kind of looked really cool. We just take the big map ways, or is this just the wee version here? Baykeeper 2 launched in early access this week. Seemed to be. Yeah. Right, so. Okay, this is my map. Can't take the big one apparently. Which way did that come? Was it that way? It was. This is the way it came. Right, okay. Where's my map? Where am I going? What's up this way? Ooh, can I get newspapers? No. No, I can't. Let's see, apart from the usual, here's a kick-ass, but... Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Apart from that, like, it did look good. Can I open this? No. I thought that was an icon to open it. It wasn't. It was just the actual badge of the car. Actually, it did look really good, and it was kind of very cyberpunky, and I was like, oh, and looks like the story was a bit decent, and I was like, oh, it looks really good. And then I was like, oh, Stellar Blade. And I was like, Right, I go in here. Right. Somebody's not watering their plants. Oh, we have a letter. We have a letter. There's no arguments. Amsterdam could be slightly wrong in the name, but look pretty good. It did. It did. That looked alright, you know. Customer came in, ordered black and white, and tried to explain it's a bad look. I don't know. Why did I collect the flower shop message? Message? Look like a great story. Yeah, there's a lot of good games that they've... it was another night of hilarity where everything was either October or September. Nobody was going near November at all. They're like, November? That month doesn't exist.
What is this?
What is this? It looks like, I don't know, somebody dropped tomato sauce on the ground and then just didn't clean it up properly, so now it stained the floor. Don't worry about it, James. Don't worry about it. It's grand. It's fine. Your backlog sorted for next year. Yeah, September will be a busy fucking month for games. Oh, the windows broke. Well, that's not good. Don't know if their insurance is going to cover that. Can we break this one? Can we break it? Can I punch? Can I kick? Nope, I can dodge. Can I parry? Can Harry parry? Harry parry. Master Chief's ass. If they made Master Chief wet, made him all sulky and wet, who could be all over it? Right, okay. Can't go in there. What's up this way? Just mark these off as... No, it doesn't mark anything. No. Stop confusing my little mind, would you? What is this? Like scaffolding and sheets? You must be drying all the sheets. That's exactly what that is. So my backyard looks like whenever we go through all the sheets. Genuine optical. No, should go to Specsavers. Right. Gonzalez restaurant. Right, okay. What's in here? It's closed. I cannot get a sandwich. Sammy Dabby Doo, what is happening? Welcome in. What is the story? Nope. Don't have to stay away from that. Don't want to take offense. Thank you for checking in. Welcome in. Anybody in our chat that's checking out Sammy, please do so. Guy's a legend. Also very, very talented when it comes to Grand Blue Fantasy, which we finished on Thursday. You were brilliant help for that as well, buddy. Thank you. And I've been playing it offline as well. Should I just be going around? Is there anywhere in particular I'm supposed to be going, or am I just going door to door? We have a cafe up here, the Texan Cafe, which is also closed. Nowhere is open. Nope. I wonder who this is. The best thing is check every door.
Wait.
They get marked on your map, right? Okay. Have a lot of them are like boarded up. The worst trophy they get for Final Fantasy 6 is done! At this point, I'm going to speedrun to the end of the game. Should be finished in 5 days. Ah, fair play, man. But some are open. Some are open. The fuck? What the fuck did I hear? Well, that looks fine. Ah, there's more bullshit in the ground. Was it supposed to be following this?
Stuff.
More of the stuff. Right, where am I? Okie dokie. It seems like it wants me to go down here. What do you call a woman in between two houses? A lane. Ooh, barbecue. Why would you leave it open like that? That's just going to get filled with dirt and shite. They haven't kept it on top of their backyard at all. Speaking of which, I'm kind of cracking up with the rain at the moment because during the really sunny days, I got to cut my grass. But now the grass has gone mental because it's been like a week and hasn't been cut. I'm not a huge fan of. That seems fine. I don't have any sort of weapon. What bullets? I have 180 turn and I have that. I have no other moves.
Hello?
That's not good noise. Can I just lift this umbrella and hit motherfuckers with it? I'll cut your grass for you. If you give me one thing, is it going to the cinema? That's good you're enjoying the game. The game of stream. I eventually need to dust off Grand Blue and finish off the game. I'm going to pull it up before the expansion drops. That's in July as well. No. What is the one thing? What is the one thing? A hug? No chance. The grass can stay cup on cup. This is making himself banned now. Come on, suggesting hugs. Maybe he'll do co-op content when crossplay comes. So is it, does Grand Blue not have crossplay now? Look around the 5 objects marked by white cloth. Those are objects or traversals you can interact with. White cloth? I thought I had you. What time is the Xbox show tomorrow? I have no idea. It'll probably be later on for us. Can I look? Anything? Can I get in the truck? No. It wants me to climb into the wee hole, and I don't want to climb into the wee hole. I don't like the wee hole. Can I just go around the back now? Back. Why did it tell me about that white thing if I can't interact with anything? Does it crossplay? It does not. Okay. You can play together if you're on Steam or PS5 exclusive. The expansion you can play with everybody owns a game, including Nintendo Switch. Ooh, nice. You can. Suck it up and climb in a hole. I don't want to climb in a hole. I can what? I can dance. I can sing. Have any time in my life. Am I the dancing queen? Interact with things. I know, but there's nothing to interact with here. I'm pressing buttons. Not doing anything. Did you can interact with things with white cloth or something? I don't want to crawl through. There fucking is. I know the hole. I don't want to go in the hole. I don't want to go in the hole. BRB, no baller. The hole. If this was me in real life, I would do everything in my fucking abilities to not go in that hole. You need to. I don't want to though. But I don't want to go into the hole. Fuck's sake. No way would any human do this. No one would ever want to go through that hole. No, look, you happy now? You happy now? The hole's been covered. Been fucking covered. Duke McKinnon said you. There's nothing you have to worry about. I don't believe you. This place has seen better days. Hey, what is this? Is this a save thing? Yeah, it's a save thing. Maybe I should just save. Does this game punish you for saving too much as well? There's reasons why. Is there reasons why? There isn't reasons why. Would you do that in real life? No, you wouldn't. You would kick off and be like, I'm not doing it. Right, what am I looking for here? What's on here? Anything in here? Ooh, what are you? Nutrition supplement? Yes, we shall take that. Health drink. Use health drink. I don't need to use health drink. Use health drink. I don't even have a health bar. What are you talking about? There's a weird noise. Can't go in that door. Can't throw the fucking bike at somebody. Yep, that's where it wants me to go. And go out the front door. Lovely. And right, once we go pick up this radio, and I know what this is. Yeah, look, there's some shenanigans over there. James, look, James, look, James, look, James. James, this is where your hidden classes that you went to for Kung Fu come in, and you can just... Or we do that. Yeah, fair play, let's go. Go, motherfucker.
Stay back.
How'd I head up? Well, that went really well. I didn't collect the wooden plank. It didn't tell me until it fucking started battering me what the button was to hit it with. Go on, unzip me, buddy. Unzip me. Wait, so Harry's got the batters per person that can't defend herself? Exactly. But that's a bit annoyed me about that there now. It was like, oh, right, this thing, here's a weapon. Right, what button do I press? Use the weapon. Oh, I'm not going to tell you until it starts to vomit in your face. Harry isn't on this game. That is. James Harry McLaughlin. That's his name. You knew what I meant. Hook, he didn't know what you meant. It's like a time he tried to deny Luke there. What happens? the end. James realizes he's Harry. I know, and then he meets Sally. Also, I've not played this, to be fair, this is true. You only played the first one, which was Harry. Lock. I know you want me to go out the window, but there's probably more stuff. See, there's more stuff. Ooh. What? Why would you love this? Why would you take this with you? No. Why would I want to use syringe? It's a random syringe that looks like it has heroin on it that I found in a box. Why would we want to take this? James, you have problems, buddy. Ads? I thought you were just reading AIDS. Ads, we could probably snooze them. Break glass. Always comes down to drugs. I know, why? Like, there's no circumstance where you think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to inject myself with this thing I found in some, what looks like drug dealer's house. Poppy goodness. So Fifi. Harry! Oh, Harry, what are you going to do now, kid? That's on what's happening. What's the frickin' crack, ladies and gents? Who's the most gorgeous? Leyoric or Hook? Might as well start arguing. No, it's Hook. He wins automatically. He has hair. Where the fuck is Harry? The man answers. I know. Now it said press triangle to take the health drink and to take the syringe, but how do you pick between the two? I don't really want the syringe. I definitely don't want the syringe. It seems like I'm getting an infection and AIDS from it. I immediately unfollowed because they doubled down and I pointed out the credits are rolling and there's nothing further from here. What? Oh, someone who was streaming this last year gave up at me because I said, oh, you got this ending after the last cutscene. Ah, right, okay.
Where are you, Mary?
So there's multiple endings? Spoilers. Fucking spoilers. Wait a minute. Can I... Oh, there's something in there. Can I get it? I can. Ooh, that's good. You knew that. You played the original. Did I though? Did I? Oh, can I just go wrecking cars? I'm a vandal now. Yarg. Yarg. I don't think there's anything else on here. But I won't be sure. Won't be certain until I find out. Can I smash the front one? No. Ah, can't smash the front one screen. 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. You're a vandal, Harry? I know. What's this? You monster! You should never spoil an ending. I know. I don't know. What's he doing? What the fuck's that man doing? Harry, you've lost your mind. Can I just go around breaking all the fucking windows? Right, okay. Every window will now get broken. Is there durability on me? Actually, Flemish, go and tell me, is there durability on the melee weapons? Like, can I just melee everything? No durability. Yes! 1. Ooh, what's this? What's this? If you're reading this, leave. This place is not what it seems. Sometimes you just have to look behind, see if there's someone behind me. Run, 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 run. They weren't there before. Read Neely's bar. I don't think that body was there before. So once we go to the bar, right, okay. was that? Oh! Jesus, look at that. What's that? Jabroni doing? Ooh, and there's a red thing in there. Ooh, piece of candy. So are these just for saving? Okay, okay. Yes, just save points, right, okay. For once, the typewriters make more sense. And nothing in there. Yeah. Vandal! Can I aim it like a, if I get one of them things? Like I said, self-reflection. He said at the first one, it feels like something's on his head. Ooh, car. Oh, here's squelchiness. Oh, in the car. Fuck. Ooh, there's a bookstore. Can I break these windows? Oh, I can. Sweet. What the fuck? Somehow I feel there's something in here. I've got the murder eyes. Go inside. I'm going inside. I'm going inside. Can I just have a number 3 and a wee bit off the top? Thank you. I saw him again, or at least I think it is. He says he didn't, but I don't know anymore. I'm tired. Doesn't matter. There's some scraping noises again. Is there actually nothing else on here apart from that note? Well, that's a bit shit. The audio was fucking class in this. Like, it's so creepy. Where are you? There you are. Yar! What's that? Fuck. Yar! Not Batman. That means the big fella with the head doesn't. He scrapped the bar and hammer on the ground as he walks. Thing has his. Oh, pyramid head. Your man. But I'm assuming I have to go in that wee building, but I want to wee look around first, see if there's anything else laying about the place. I think I've already checked this car, haven't I? I have. Fuck off is what they really call him. That's his Christian name. I can't go down there. Where am I going map-wise? Right, so that's what it means about the white cloths. You can just traverse over the top of it. Very, very dark in here. I need like a flashlight. No, I said fuck off. Is that what they really call him? I don't know, my kids. Never met the man. Oh, because yeah, Pyramid Head. Yeah, that's his name. That's it. That's his name. Right, so I can't get out there. To that side. mean, the names of the enemies in general aren't much better. No, they're definitely not. I thought I killed this guy. Why is the music going about? Suppose it fits the bill. Yeah. And plus, like, he does. It's not like he really talks, so it's more so what James and Co decide his name is. Right, so I can climb in through this window. Well, that sounds fine. But it's a bug! Oh, what the fuck's that? Ah, search yourself. Fucker. Fucker. Coming in here. Talking all that jive. Motherfucker! Yeah, those enemies in the body bag thingies are called lying figures. Right, okay. It's a weird name. Yeah, you need to turn to wash your own, buddy. Oh my god, spoilers, please don't follow. What's this? What's this? Deluxe automatic washers. Nice. There was very little point in me coming in here, was there? Huzzah! Batman! In here? No, can't go in there. Gladly. Will you spray your shit? You spray your bullshit, go. Am I better off just ignoring these guys? Like, can he really chase after me? Oh, there's another one. You can skip a lot of enemies. Alright, okay. I didn't read that because you guys are chasing me. Right. You, I might have to kill. And spurge everywhere, and then I'll go. Whap! Whap! Batman! Batman! No! I hit you, you don't hit me. Those are not the rules. Die! I would love to see Leyoric skip. I am a phenomenal skipper. Have you not seen me play Resident Evil 2? I skipped loads in that game. I think in my last run I had 260 handgun rounds and 70 shotgun shells and shit. Oh my god. Just because you skipped enemies. I'm taking quite a bit of damage though, it's the only thing. Like, just fighting one of them, they always get you. I could lose them, but you just battered them. Right, okay. Is this not where I was? Ignoring you now, you son of a bitch. It's on up the street. Wait, I went this way. No, it's not that way. It's the other way. Motherfucker. Are you lost already? I was. I got turned around, but every now and then I get a little bit lonely and I have to turn around.
Seven minutes. 7 minutes
Tom
is all
up,
I can
what's
spare
happening?
to play with you.
In my wrestle streams, I say a town. Larn. I think everybody sees Larn as a wrestle stream. Ooh, police care. I kind of assumed it would have something. You promised me to take me someday, you never did. Crew Tomahawk. Ooh, what's this? Jukebox? No cosplay tonight? Yes, I'm cosplaying as one of the undead nurse things with the bald heads. Why am I taking a CD for? Or a record? Broken vinyl. My vinyl fantasy. Hey. So again, we just start smashing the thing. Ready to fix it. Find one. Still haven't found one of the buttons, and half the record's still lodged inside, but the other part's missing. Fergie must have taken it. Right. Want a little fact about those nurses? No, you've already told me about them nurses. They're underpaid and overworked, and that's what it is. That's the fact about them. You just know. Have I? Yes, you have. I don't think a broken record's going to open that. Right, okay. There was a hole here. It's gone now. That's very much Silent Hill the room, isn't it? Tell me. It's a fun fact that you cosplay them. And it is. It is. It's the fun fact. About wants to know. This is the fun fact. Pineapples. Pineapples. Burton, what's happening? He looks shocked. He does. He's shocked by his own pineapple. He's like, oh my god, this tastes good, and I can't complain about it. Couple of things. Their head shaking is meant to represent seizures, but also the head is also represented to use a condom. For fuck's sake, no! Sarah, go and have a word with him. He's always shocked. He is. Burton, welcome on. How did the rest of your stream go earlier? You were playing Zelda the Minish Cap. It looked pretty good. I'm about to start murdering motherfuckers. There's loads of them about the place. That looks like a place I can get on. He's actually... Oh, I know he's telling the truth. I just didn't want him to start saying it in chat. I only have myself to blame. I know, McKins, you're part of the problem now. I'm not making things up. I know you're not making things up. I just said... I already do. McKins asked. Blame him. Doesn't mean you have the answer. You could turn around and say, no, it's a bit weird. It's a bit creepy. It's a bit inappropriate. I might not say it. You're going to do the freaking steal me. Fucker! Fucker! Batman! Batman! Yeah. Big boss, what's happening?
Solid snake. No, that is
there another one? Oh, fuck, there's one in there too. Is he going to make my burger? Let go spew.
Fucking diabolical.
Fucking diabolical. The Graph, I played this game once. What do you think of Big Boss? Did you enjoy it? Batman! Thank you very much for signing in there, Tomahawk. Not my thing, not your thing. I heard that you weren't a big fan of Resident Evil 6 as well. Or Resident Evil 7. I am starting to run a little bit low on health. And I don't even know what my health is. Is it the wee wavy thing? It's up at the top. I'll have to look around and see if there's any shit on here. You didn't like 7. RE6 is the good. Flamash loves RE6. He keeps telling me about it. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about. Your health composes himself and it's red around the sides. I thought a book. So a book is in low health because it's red around the sides. Should I be doing something else in combat? I did follow the story in this. Flemish kept shouting at me. Yeah, he's been doing that quite a bit as well. Just wallop and dodge, really. Because they keep spewing on me, and is there any way they avoid that? Or is there just enough health that it doesn't really matter? Am I gonna have to claw through the week? Yeah, if you dodge it. Right, okay. What wonderful music you play. Can I... Oh, I can climb through. You love climbing through wee cracks, don't you, Harry? I know his name's James, but I know he's Flemish more if I call him Harry. Another syringe? What are you doing picking up all these syringes, you fucking madman, you? Is that it? Was that actually all that was in this room? What am I looking for? If you knock one down, spend about 5 months battering their face in it, upgrade your muscles, trust me, bro. Just like in real life. I've now unlocked that, but what was the point in this room apart from a syringe? Right. I'm going to look at the map again. At Neely's bar, there's a jukebox. Well, I'll go to the Saul apartment. I don't know. Can I go over my notes? Where's my notes? Oh shit. No, I didn't mean to take out. Where's my notes? Chrissy, what's happening? Good old Noisy Valley, it is. I just kept shouting at me for looking at the map as well. Why is he shouting at you for looking at the map? That's next map. Next map. Previous map. Map. It told me it added things to me. You know, I'm going to have to look at the buttons. It told me it added things to my controls view. Gameplay dodge, skip, quick heal, next item. Read investigation. Chrissy, thank you very much for the prime sub. I appreciate it. 8 months as well. Subscribe for 10 months, currently on an 8-month streak. Amazing. To begin, to toboggan. First, buy a toboggan. You don't need to buy a big toboggan. Too big a toboggan is too big a toboggan to buy to begin to toboggan. That's true. That's very true. That's some sound advice right there. That's some sound advice. Big Boss, thank you for checking in. Please make Sarah mod in your streams and she will ban him. This is probably what we're going to have to do. So map, and then weapons, which I don't have. Previous item. Inventory. Alright, so it's a center button. I keep forgetting about that because it's fucking PlayStation. Key items, memos. So here's the one we found. Right, so it's over at Saul's apartments, right? So I am supposed to make my way down to the apartments, right? Okay. Memo. So I just kind of came in there to use up the health that I lost fighting the things on there. That's fine. Why's my phone beeping? High scores, high stakes. Now this is pod racing. Yes. He will mark key locations on the map. Be aware of this, and then I'll score them out. Right, okay. Who's this Harry we're talking about? No, Harry's daughter. Happy days. There's your man over there. There's himself. Right, how to get in these apartments now? I'm assuming it's down this way, maybe this door. Yes. We're door explorers. I don't like the fact this is coming through on my controller. What's this boy doing? Alright, he was making the noise. I don't even know if they can attack me. My ears are burning, you bullying me? Yeah. No, my phone went and it was just a notification from you. That goes up the stairs. I'll maybe try that wee room first. Oh, the pharmacy. Should there be loads of healing items in here? Yes, they should. I actually think it's a good game, just not really my taste. Some of the sections were painfully long. Oh, okey. As long as we have a receipt, it's fine. Where's this go? That's all. Was just coming on for another syringe. Fucking flat out the syringes. You're a wild man. You're a wild man, Harry. Wild man yourself. Door's locked. Door's locked. My controller's making noises again. They are the way you played. Jesus. So, that boss didn't deserve that. Ooh, map. Can I take it? Can you give me map? Please give me map. No? I can't go in there. I'm assuming this is where I go. One goddamn eye, this is true. This is true. You're making fun of someone who is playing games on hard difficulty. Big boss, how are you getting on? You seem to be smashing it with FIFA at the moment. So that's key number 5, right? Mambo number 5 key. Apartment 5 left his key. Says there's a leak in the upstairs. Gotta check it out. Okie dokie. Can I put on the cool jacket? No, apparently not. 1, 2. Some more shenanigans. Right, so that's where I am. So number 5 is upstairs. Why is there more noises? Gotta check every corner just in case of shit. Hi, FIFA's doing fine. I've had loads of improvements, things that time nicely into the new release in September. Ooh, very nice. Have to get better at dodging on this. Raging doesn't let me... Fuck. You wee fucker. Raging doesn't let me parry like in Sekiro. That's number 4. Number 6. I think number 6 is the one I'm supposed to get into, isn't it? Number 8 and number 7. These will all be locked, I'm assuming. Yeah, dodging is key. Long and blurred. Glad it's over the weekend off. That's normally the best way, isn't it? And James can't go in there yet. Ooh, them stairs are in a bit of disrepair. So then we fucking cockroachy bastards can get you. That's not good. That's apartment 4, which I can't get into. 5 I have a key for, and I'm assuming 5's up here. We look in the room first. There we go. We just injected ourselves with God knows what. Started this, but kind of lost interest. Need to get back into it. That is me with so many games. God love the weekend. My week was grand. Work's a little shite. Nothing new there, but I'm off next weekend. I think we're all kind of that way at the moment. We just have to win the lottery. One of us has to win the lottery, and then we'll financially support everyone else. Can I take a shit? No. No, I cannot. Right, okay. Do you sleep in the same room as your fridge? Madman. Madman. Right. Leyoric, if you win the lottery, will you buy me a new PC every time I face a slight inconvenience? We're going to have to. I mean, that's the only way. You can't fix software or hardware issues. Normally, you have to buy a new PC. Like you offer to do for me. He does do that. It's like, you, well, oh, the sound device turned off. Well, I turn it back on. No, I'll buy a new PC. that's a fun one. I'm on inside. I should be able to open it from the inside. Right, so it was... I don't think it's... Is this apartment 6? Is this where man Saul ended up? Oh no, this is Saul's apartments. Right, okay. Right, this is the other side of that shrapnel. Alright, so it's all going upstairs. Right, okay. Now, drop the ladder? No. I got in there the other day and had to restart. His first solution was PC Specialist looking to buy a new one. My god. My god. Fucking buying pre-bolts. Ah, he's furiously typing now. He's all getting annoyed now. More because you've been getting loading recently and can't resolve it. Format and reinstall. Oh. Floor's fucked. And she came and washed it all away and then started to make sense. It's this place. I can't fight it. But okay. What was the error that you got? What happens when you Google said error? Also, was your PC not already PC Specialist? Like, is it in warranty? Well, I don't like that door with all the blood pouring out the bottom of it. Is there anything else in here for me? Yeah, it's a custom build for PC Specialist, not a warranty. Out of warranty now. Right, okay. Oh, there's a hole in the wall. That seems safe. That seems fun. Oh, it's a stinky room. The stinky room. James, why would you want to go in there? This man makes a lot of questionable decisions. I don't trust his thought process at all. He does a lot of things that I would inherently deem icky. And a little bit blah. To be fair, I don't know how long... They stick my hand in this wall. Air. So it's a BIOS error. Have you tried flashing your BIOS? Going off hasn't happened since. Yeah, try flashing it. Why is the wall squelchy? I'm losing an arm here, kid. It's a small number 2. Jukebox button? Right, okay. Okay. Can't go in there. I have to go outside then. Right, okay. I can't get... No one can get the number 9. Right, so... it's at the top of that stairs. Right, okay. Okie dokie, I'm on the roof. Why is the heating still on? How is everything so dilapidated? The heating still on? Is there anything over here that could eat? If it does it again, I'll try the BIOS thing. Yeah, flash the BIOS. Just do a complete hard. The BIOS could need an upgrade as well, because it's not something your PC does automatically. You have to manually update your BIOS. And it normally is you just download the BIOS update on the USB drive, and then you go into your actual BIOS, change your boot sequence, the USB first, and it'll flash the BIOS then at that point. How's the weekend been? Been an exciting piece of news around the house. The most exciting piece of news in the house is this corner from us took their... Oh! Is the corner from us took their Christmas tree down the date? In June? They're near enough going to have to put it back up again now. What was the point? Give it a go if it happens. No, no worries. Look, if they've left it this long to take it down, they may as well just put it back up again. Right, so where am I now? So that was... I just got a button. Got a fucking button. But where... You know, I'm going to have to read again. At this point, yeah. May as well just left it up at this point. But where did this say? Read this. How can I investigate it? It was investigating. Oh, so it just goes up. Anyway, I'm going to check on. Should I have to get the other flip it? But somebody's creeping up on me. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Right, groovy music. That's my next port of call, which is up the street. My sister leaves her, but she wraps the thing for a minute and puts it in. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I've seen a lot of people doing it. That kind of. Fuck you. Fuck you. I've seen a lot of people doing that, and it's a good, like, time-saving thing. But we normally, it's a whole big process in our house. It's a whole big thing when we put the tree up. Nobody like to do it. Can't go in there? No. Yeah. What's this? This is like some market. Can I go on? No. But we got potatoes. I had to do my Christmas pre-sale orders the other day with fresh produce. I wanted to cry. Oh, it's beginning. It's beginning. I should flip my out of the room and put the tree up. Is he a nightmare, is he? Go and tell us. What's he like when you put the Christmas tree up? Restaurant. No. I cannot go in restaurant. He just doesn't help and just gets in the way. I can imagine that. I'll probably have to fight this one. Tell me to smash windows. Oh, there's a police car over there. I kind of want to hurt your soul doing them. Go up a strafe. Oh, fuck, there's two of them. Yeah, fuck it. It's not worth it. Not worth it. Dry cleaners. Just a music push? It is. Ah, and there's a fucker in here too. Couple of them. Die, motherfucker! There was nowhere for me to go! Right. Dead. I don't understand how we're already halfway through the year. I know, it's been flying, hasn't it? Just now. That is a bit insane. I can't believe I'm back from Australia 2 weeks already. I know that it was for the longest time. What's this? Jenner came in the other day, drunken in tears, had half a record and kept yelling they gotta fix it somehow. As well to do, they shut him up, but I put the glue from... So I got the glue from the cabinet, but realized I only had one half and ran out. Can't do much there. Right, okay, so I'm supposed to fix the record, glue it together. I feel like shit will go down whenever I break that window. Yeah, of course it doesn't open. I have to kick Mrs. Tomahawk and the youngest Tomahawk. I have to kick out Mrs. Tomahawk and the youngest Tomahawk, so me and the eldest can put the tree up. It's taking the tree down. I don't mind putting it up. It's taking the tree down is about I dislike, because the room just looks empty and it makes me feel sad. I am a big fan of Christmas. Fucking love Christmas. Right, so this is glue. Okay, and this looks like the record. For the record. forgot to open the inventory to combine them. Combine that and that. There we go. Good as new. The long way home. Right, okay. Is there any more stuff for me to take? Smashy, smashy. Actually, no, I would be quite surprised if there was... There fucking is. Who in a display cabinet puts up their nutrition drink? I'm not complaining because of the fact that I have an extra nutrition drink, but... Who does that? Who does this? Right, so I have to go back to the jukebox now. Anything in there? No. And we're stuck. In the back? Nope. What about this? Any stuff? Give me your things. None on that care, right? I think we're going to retail's ruin because... No, well, I used to work in retail and still fucking loved Christmas. It's better whenever you're not in retail though, 100%, because you can actually enjoy it. What is down here? Where's this going? Motherfucker! Die, motherfucker! But yeah, having to actually work during Christmas is an absolute bastard. Should be made illegal. Can't get it there. Right, okay. Oh, we got an energy drink. That's good. Alright, we're just going to go down to this police car now. Grab the stuff and then fucking run. You were under the car, you dirty bastard. I see something in there. Left it. James, left faster. Why? What are you doing? Left. Oh my god. James, left it. Seriously, why did I not lift it? I mean, you don't get much time up, really, most places. Yeah, I remember working it, and you had a, the bullets? Handgun ammo? Yes.
Finding Leyoric
Sure, there's himself.
Chat is not, shall we say, the rarest gym badge in Kanto.
Ian, what's happening? How you getting on?
Find him somewhere making dad jokes, you know? Yeah, but like you're one of those like shiny ones that everyone has because they were like in a special drop event or something like that, you know?
What's this? Wait, I feel like I've already been here. Oh no, I haven't. Sweet. This is a new place. Ian, what's the story? How's Silent Hill? It's fine so far. Actually, I have been here. I just missed that thing. It's fine so far. It's quite good. Shit, I didn't mean to drink that. The music is phenomenal. The audio and this is great. Anybody in my chat as well hasn't been checking out the internet, please do so. Man is an absolute legend. Wonderful, wonderful human. Great streamer. Played through Breath of the Wild at the moment as well, which is interesting. And audio, it has done. And it's good. See when a game does audio design well, it's brilliant. Thank you for the shouting, not a problem, man. Always. Can I put the record in? You have to select it there. Oh, and I have a jukebox button as well. How do I put the items on? Right, okay. swing it that way. Right, okay. Inventory. Final record. Start Starfield again with a shitload of Star Wars mods, and I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed Starfield. I know a lot of people gave off about it, but I thought it was really good. Is there... Is it C2 you have to press? I have to put coin on. Yeah. I have no coin. I have no coin! Where the fuck did I get a coin now? Is there one on the till? Anyway. Here's Wonderwall. And after all... we cheeky shave. I don't like the item selection on this. Like at that about the car, I was trying for ages to try and get him to fucking let me grab the ammo. I think it is looking for an inventory. I have to find a coin. Where the fuck am I going to find a coin? Well, I'll go back to that note. I'll go back to the note. The note should tell me. Read. Half the records lodged inside. Figure must have taken that anyway. In the apartment, okay. You want to know a cool detail, non-spoiler for a first look? Yes, go ahead, Ian. Not a problem. Maybe it wouldn't let you because I don't know. I feel like it should have. That's the again up at the record. Where am I getting a coin now? Can't get on there. You know the save screen where it's red and you see James's face? Its expression demeanor changes based on what's going on in the game. Right? Yeah, Funmash was saying something about it was a reflection. That's what that is. It's a reflection or something. There was a hole here and it's gone now. How about the reflection? Look, yeah, that's what you were saying. Where am I supposed to go for a feckin' coin? Right, you know what? We're going to check our items. Equipment? Wooden plank? Radio? No. Investigate? Just bullets. We will check our map. Is there anywhere else that was highlighted? No, there was not. Happy Burger, we were in the market. American Cafe. Oh, let's see, what else we got? Big J's. We're going to have to go back out in this, I think. Yeah, you just stay over there, you big creep. Don't try that American Cafe. Samurai. Careful when checking your map. There's Flimish looking. He's not happy with it. He doesn't like the map being checked at all. I've already checked that one. Oh, their enemies respawn? That's bullshit. Fucking bullshit. The cafe's not open? Do you want help to find a coin? Yeah, if you let me know where to find the coin, that'd be handy. Sounds excellent. I remember Lava streaming this and getting passive scared because of it. It is, and it's so creepy. And it's where the first game excelled as well. Oh, is that a door I can go on? I guess it's just the apartments again, isn't it? Or the diner. Fix it from behind his ear. It was there the entire time. Although what I really enjoyed about the first game was the fact that it the fog was more a limitation of the hardware rather than they initially planned to put it on. Inside the Texan Cafe on the eastern end of Cat Street. I don't think I've gone there yet. Tex Diner. Texan Cafe. Right, okay, it's highlighted. So it's this direction, just outside. Right, okay. So I'm just going that way? Yes, I am, to the very end of the street. Go to the till! You go to the till. I still haven't got there yet. Though I am in a library. Did I come in here before? Let's have a wee look around while we're in here. Just to see if there's anything good. There's a locker. And in the locker there's nothing. There's nothing. Nothing in the locker! Okay, that was a bit of a cock tease. That's the barbers, and I've already checked there. So Texan Cafe. This one here. Right, okay. I think I was in here. I just didn't go to the till. Right, okay. Sweet. Thank you, McKins. And fuck you. Batman! Still chasing me? No, it's not. Ha 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 ha. Library extra silent hill. I know. Shh. You and me one hug. No, 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 lad. That's not the deal. That's not the deal. I have to go around this corner and back to Nellie's bar. There is no hugs. There's sometimes violence. I will choose violence if that's any good day. Someone's going to crawl out from under here because for some reason he keeps respawning. Then I follow you inside as well. I assumed they would. Right, so they put the coin in here. Violence equals 3 hugs. I will violence you. And I think it's C2 was my record. I don't want to set the world on fire. That's a weird record. Doesn't even have Bon Jovi on it. Memories. This is my life, and now it's over. Now or never.
Park on the lake.
Lake Park, the movie.
We spent the whole day there. Just the two of us staring at the water.
Ian, how happy were you last night as well with the final title reveal for Final Fantasy VII Part 3? Were you buzzing? I was watching it with my kiddo, and one, I was trying to convince him to play some Final Fantasy games because he's never played one. But on the other side of it, I kept calling into your stream every time something came up Like, see when Ben Starr appeared, I was all, I bet you Ian goes, ah, Leyoric, and you did. And then when Final Fantasy 13 Revelation came up, I was like, oh yes, Ian by buzzing. I think it looks really good. I'm liking the idea of the costumes as well and the classes. Has me very, very interested. I'll have to do whatever this is over here. Right, okay. I'm just... Oh, no, I need to push it so I can climb through the wee hole, because James loves climbing through little holes. Why are you giving me health? I don't trust that you're giving me health. Just out of the goodness of your own heart. What we got here? That goes outside, right? Okay, but what else is on here? What else is here? He came back after you left. It's fine. He didn't try anything. He just seemed sad. Mumbled something about getting out of town with someone. Wasn't going to let him drive in his condition, so I locked him out. His car should be out back. Maybe check to see if it's there in the morning. The greenish blue one, number plate in an 06, I think. Right, okay. James took a wee note. Took a wee note. I can't get through there. Right, okay. I'm looking for Kiar. Blue screen ends in 06. You played this yet, or just reading from the wee guide? McKinn's is our guide connoisseur. McKinn's could actually get a job climbing Everest as a Sherpa, guiding people up the mountain because he's Googled the path to take. I'm sure nobody's in that band. Tale as old as time. I love the fact as well I found ammo, but I haven't found a gun yet. If it wasn't for McKinn's, I've done terrible, and I wouldn't have got through any of Song of Horror. That boy be raging when he comes back and finds his car wrecked. I know it told me which car it was, but I'm still going to check all of them just to make sure there's nothing on that one. Right, okay. Okay. Ooh, is this the one? 06? Oh, there's no license plate. What's funny? That's one of me fuckers. Batman! Here's what we do, to be fair, about our street. I can't claim anything. I've never climbed a mountain, but I'd be happy to be an assistant. You could do it online. You could do it through Teams. If you haven't watched that film Everest as well, it's a very good show. I'm assuming that's the car up there because most of them you can't really see the license plates. You can see that one. I can barely climb in the bed. Combat. I am okay at going out walking. I don't know how I would fare going up the likes of Everest. No, actually, I couldn't. I'm physically not fit enough to go up Everest. I would fucking die. Right, that's the one because it has a 6 on it. Just go see if there's anything else laying about. Nope. That's all it was, just a health potion. I have 5 health potions. I'm so healthy right now. I'm just going out this door then. Thankfully, I played the game again just before you did, and most of my knowledge is fresh. Ooh. Very good. Ooh, this one has 6 as well. Also is bullshit in the ground. Right, we'll go up and check that red care first then. Well, I don't like this. This looks like a wee boss area, doesn't it? Well, if I see you, you can have one for free. On the weekends and for people who give me hugs. Why are you boys so obsessed with hugs for? What is wrong with me? LA Noir, yeah. I enjoyed Flamash's speedrun of that. Or not speedrun, his gameplay of that. Why I keep saying speedrun? Woodside Apartments. Oh, multiples. Can I just run? You better make me fight them all. I could just run. Okay. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. Fuck you guys! Woodside Apartments I'm going to. Which is... I don't even know where Woodside Apartments is. Up this way, I'm assuming. Hello? Goodbye. I accidentally banned McKenzie and Flamish. Panicked. It was immediately unbanned though. I don't know where I'm going, I'm just running in a line, and things are going me. This is the end of the road. Shit. But okay. Woodside Apartments. Alright, so that's them actually on that side. That side of the Woodside. Right, here we go, here we go, here we go. Sweet, 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 sweet. I have no idea where the monster sounds are coming from. I'm playing Path of Exile 2 and you're up on one monitor and both have monster sounds. That happened to me the other night. What was I playing? What was I playing? Someone else was playing something very similar. Might have been Resident Evil or something. And I was watching someone else play something very similar, and just every time I heard a noise in their game, I was like, shit! Started panicking. We're here now. Right, okay. Is this a map? Can I take it with me or is it just going to stay pinned to that wall? There we go. I've got a map. You know I'd never ban you on purpose. This is true. This is true. Although I have had McKenzie ban people on Hooks chat by accident. People playing James Bond last night. I kept hearing people fighting and got utterly confused. I know. We've all been there and banned someone by accident. I remember that. Do we quick shave? We quick shave? So, his face is a representation of how things are going. He's giving me nothing. Giving me nothing. I'm going to quickly take a break and run to the bathroom. Who did I ban again? I don't know. I think it was somebody like who always comes on. Did you ban me? It might have been. Was it Chrissy? It might have been. To be honest, his face doesn't change much. No, he doesn't give anything away. He's just like, monsters. It's fine. So I am going to take a quick break, run to the bathroom and get a drink. And like always, the voting system's going to come up. And it's exclamation mark vote 1 for the first game, exclamation mark vote 2 for the second one. And I'll be back in a wee second. Notice Leyoric brought the original song back pretty quickly, but with variation, because you and Sierra kept complaining about the new song. So I decided to make it a bit more epic and revamp the new song. Plus, the old version had sometimes there was bits of it the AI wasn't actually saying the words properly, so y'all are the disgrace to the Dragoon community. Happy Irish, I understand how great Legends of Dragoon is, but Resident Evil 2 Remix, a lot better. Because it was shite. Oh my god, did Flemish actually say that? That's mental that he said that. Those words he said are mad. Oh no, they're not there anymore. He didn't say it. That's good. Happy days. Happy days. I like this song. I feel it would motivate me to work. Vote of Kings is goated. I've never actually played Legends of Dragoon is a phenomenal game. It is very, very good. Very, very good. And like, very, very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII, I find, which actually would be a pretty good one for you. Yeah, it wasn't as good as the original. That is true. That is true. I felt Vote of Kings, it was being outplayed too much, and I thought about changing the song. Whereas I probably should have just went down the route of just updating the song, maybe changing the games or something like that. You're absurd. What do you say that? But Ian, what do you think about the Final Fantasy VII Part 3 announcement last night? I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very good. I thought it looked class. The bit where they're jumping off the high one. Vincent not even using a parachute. Thought that was class. The actual combat we said, very, very good. I cannot wait either. I'm going to replay Rebirth as well. Coming up there. The one thing I was saying this to Happy Irish earlier, I played Remake on stream, but it was before I started uploading VODs to YouTube, so I don't have the VOD for it, which I'm a bit raging about. So I'm kind of ripping that if I do Rebirth, there'll be the VOD for that, but I won't have that. When you said Vincent, I looked up, assumed you were talking to me. No, this is a cool Vincent, so don't worry about it. Also, the parachute is a good way to avoid having to land that beast. I know. I don't know any of this yet, but I missed the last hour of. Oh, did you not watch the end of it? Me and my son sat up and watched it. It was brilliant. Very, very good. There's a few games we were chatting about it earlier as well. The fact that there was a game that looked amazing and it turned out to be Stellar Blade, and I was like, I don't really like the look of Stellar Blade. It's too near enough pornographic. It was late when I got around to watching it. Last one I remember was Guild Wars 3. That looked good. That one took me by surprise. And I was like, ooh, Guild Wars 3. Very nice. Very nice. Then it was 8 a.m. Then 8 a.m. happened. Right, so I've just come on here. I'm going to watch some TV. Oh, what's this? Is this another puzzle? Yes. Yes, it is. Apparently all our puzzles are covered in cloth in this game. That's the way it is now. So I'm going to need to find things for this puzzle. No items. 3 bright coins. 3 bright coins in the 5. And the 5 holes B. First sits the maiden underneath the tree. The one from the maiden doth blow, the beautiful flower across the grow. And here comes the man, so sleek, so fine, in the pale moonlight, his eyes does shine. Ooh, right, okay. And they're all in this cupboard. More bullets for a gun I don't have. Go. I'd be mad if they had all the solutions right beside you. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it gave me very E3 vibes. And the only disappointment I really had was it was like, yeah, there's Ben Starr. Oh shit, he's talking about Fortnite. I don't really care about Fortnite. I'm not, even if they had him as a playable character, I'm not going to play it. In response to your complaint regarding the gunshots from Department 217, I paid a visit to the tenant and ensured that he does not own any firearms. He's fully cooperated and granted access to the apartment. True to his words, he didn't have any weapons or traces of using one. Should know his participation form of gender. Right, so 217 is probably where I find a gun. I think we're at that door, right? I don't want to go upstairs yet until I finish exploring down here. that kind of goes out there, sort of.
Stay away from the summoner!
Fable, what is happening? Welcome in. Well, if it ain't my favorite Rick of the Leo variety, yes, what is happening? If it isn't my favorite of all the crits. How are you getting on, Fable? Any's that aren't following Fable, she is an absolute fucking legend, puts on a brilliant stream. You play a lot of Dead by Daylight, but you were playing Baldur's Gate 3 today, which is an absolute classic. Definitely draw Fable a follow. Right, so up the stairs I go then. How did the rest of your stream go? How did you get on? I loved Baldur's Gate 3. It was such a good game. I got onto the initial beta for it as well.
Is anyone there?
I'm 3 years late to the Boulder Train now, but you've now arrived when all the bugs and stuff have been sorted, whenever there's some really cool mods made as well for it. Great play. Right, so 217's kind of where I'm going. No items, right, so I need keys to open them doors. Oh yeah, very smart of it. See, you thought it out. You knew what was... You knew what was happening. Can I see anything outside? Yes, umbrellas. Oh, I don't like this. Why is that open? Something's going to move and the light's going to shift, isn't it? Ah, fucking mannequins. Hate mannequins. Old mannequin Skywalkers. I can't break them. Shit. Right. Something's going to pop out of there. Try and kill me.
At Backlash? Backlash.
Yep.
At Backlash.
At Backlash.
At Backlash. Backlash.
At Backlash.
At Backlash.
I shouldn't enjoy that as much as I do.
At Backlash.
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 Why do I hate it? Because you have class. Did I take this torch now? Is that what's telling me? Yeah.
Fucking diabolical.
Fucking diabolical. The best redeem ever. You son of a bitch. Batman! You son of a bitch. Any more of these? Hmm?
These clothes.
I'm going to wear them now. Courtyard key, right, okay. Tomahawk, coming on. Taking the title at Backlash. At Backlash. Father!
Father! Father!
Right, so we got the courtyard key. I don't think I can get in here. Shoot, courtyard. Oh, okay. Shoot. Why does it tell me to turn the light off as well? Why did the door close? I don't think it's for here, is it? No, it's not. Going down the stairs. Don't want to go... What's upstairs? Fuck, what's upstairs? We're going to have to go upstairs, aren't we? Oh, there's fucking loads. No, not going up there. Fuck that shit. We're going where the key has told us to go, the courtyard. I'm assuming is there. it is not. Not there. Around here, there was a door as well over here we couldn't open. Righty. Alrighty then. I don't see any shenanigans yet, but doesn't mean they're not going to pop out. Oh, there's out in the street, right? Okay. That takes us over there. We're going to explore here a wee bit, find out what's happening. Carl Urban, would you like to take me out on a date? No?
Diabolical.
But could you go out on a date with him, Fable? I mean, all he'd say is,
Oi, Huey. Homelander done killed my wife and stole my bloody kid. Oi, Huey.
can I break that? No. Don't go chasing waterfalls. It seemed like a lot more was going to happen there. I'm not trusting that white wall over there. But Jack Quaid is the new God of War. Which they called him QB. Is Jack Quaid the new God of War? Is he Laufey? There's something happening. There's something happening. I can hear the bullshit. I can hear the bullshit. He's the gelatinous cube, right? Okay. Fair play. Just ignore me. I'm just going through exploring the kitchen, looking for stuff. Why is it so loud in this fucking room? Something on its way. He's already taken his weapon out. Why is this room so fucking noisy? I don't like the fact that I know we can switch it off as well, but I don't like the fact the controller's doing it too. It's fucking freaking me out on several fronts. Something in there. Let's fucking see. Can't go in there. It's just this door. This is all we're dealing with though.
Oi.
Sounds fucking stuck in my head now. Gelatinous is a great word. It is. So is splooch. Gloop. I wish they would have made a sequel to that D&D movie. I really enjoyed that. Was it him? Wee bugs. Setting off my doohickey. I'm assuming I have to go in this room. Don't
I
mind
swear
me.
you would be of more use to me if I skinned you and turned your skin into a lampshade. Or fashioned you into a piece of high-end luggage. I can even add you to my collection.
Are you saying that you have a collection of skin luggage?
Of course I'm not. Don't be ridiculous. Look at the smell. You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch!
Fuck, they caught me off guard there. I gotta love a little bit of Sonny.
Oi, QB. Kratos done did in my wife and took my bloody son.
I've lots of handgun ammo, but no handgun for the ammo.
Oh, hello,
Suspicious.
Papa. I was just about to. What have you put on my head? I do not like it. You have made me to look like a silly cows, and I am not a silly cows. I am a strong and agile German Shepherd. Keine dumme Kuh.
Eine dumme Kuh. Oh, right, what's this? Oh, is it going to make me reach in for this and something's going to grab me? Something's going to grab me from that door. 100% it's going to grab me. This already has a key in it. And it just leads outside. Right, okay. You're going to make me and something's going to grab my arm. Right, you know what? Take a deep breath, folks. Let's go for it. Yeah, use your big stick. Boy. Oh, you little bitch. Oh, little bitch. We're going to kill her. We're going to murder her. She's going to die of death.
Damn it.
James, you have a stick with a nail on the end of it. You use that, kid.
What's a kid doing here?
You could reach it from there. Come on. Go. Good. Also, why the bars? That's weird. Some weird choice. Right, so I'd have to go back and go up the stairs now. This just brings me back out here. Right, okay.
Tell me what you want.
Treat. Bitch.
Oh, excuse me?
Well.
No. What do you say?
Bitch.
No. I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please. Bitch, please.
Leo! Oh, you're already there. You're already sitting waiting, were you?
There she is. The puppers.
It's getting a bit dark now. Now you can still see you. There's her wee nose. There's her wee mouse. Eating her num-num. Good girl. The bestest pups. Bestest. Ah, that door's open now. Fucking dead we get when I get a healthy. Oh. Someday we'll meet Clue in real life. Hook has met her. She's a very, very timid, very friendly dog. She's even friends with the postman. Well, she will bark whenever he knocks on the door, but eventually she'll be like, "Ah, we're friends." I forgot. Be a good one. Is that door open? Yeah, something's going to pop out, doesn't it? I want to go around and get this key first, though. Well, that's the key for. Second floor, something. Second floor hallway, right, okay. I'm going to explore this room first. There's something there. You know, barks because she can sniff out and brings you the bills in the post. That's what it is. To be honest, she's saving me from the bills. She's protecting me. She loves her daddy. Her daddy's her favorite. You know what's a really sad fact? No matter what you call your dog, and no matter what name you give your dog, and they know their name, you'll call them it, and they will learn that's their name, and they'll respond to it. We will never know what name they've given us. It's a ball. Octopus, what's happening? Welcome in all the Tifas. Last night had so many Tifas. Street Fighter got Tifa. Final Fantasy got Tifa. Them bills take all the money when... I know. It's extra treat money. It's being used up for bills. Disgraceful. Fastest man in the West strikes again. Who? Me? Huh? But there was this other room that we wanted to check first. Dogspus, what is the story? How are you getting on? We are busy having the shit scared out of us. Music. Can I play it? No. What a message. Thank you there. Oh, that's the AI, does it? What the AI say? Dogspus? Sounds like a codename to me. This Norwegian operative has been spotted in the Star Wars Old Republic sector, tackling both PvE and PvP missions. They're on a quest to get good with their lethality operative. All the while uncovered Imperial agents' stories. Keep your eyes posted for this one, soldier. It's a slippery target. Doctopus. Yeah, Doctopus is from Norway and there's a cool bean. Oh, somebody's done the graffitied.
Quite the artist.
Yeah, I figured it was way, but thanks for... No, not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on. Same with everybody. Appreciate you folks hanging out tonight. Especially because I'm kind of a little bit scared. This is a big difference, I think, between this and Resident Evil. Resident Evil feels more that you're more incapable of defending yourself, where this is... It's like it's just a lot more bullshit on it. And it's all very, very supernatural. You know what I mean? Would have been through here. Much love. I think it's a bug. I think it's like a... Oh, wait. Is it? Oh, no, it's not. It's one of them. Oh, it's one of them boys. Come on. Imagine Lee or Rick had a jump scare team. That would be fun. It would be. Come on. Batman! Nope. God damn it. It was Silent Hill right away. I saw the 2 and figured it was your speed run. Ah, I'd be moving very slowly if it was my speed run. That's why he said fastest man in the West. No, it's not. We've traded on Resident Evil 2 for some Silent Hill 2 today. It's the second floor. We're going now. Might go in here and just save. I don't know if it punishes me for saving too much. It's weirdly hard to defend myself against sick people in your own house. That's the only way. You have to beat them over the head with a 4x4 with nails in it. There's a couple down there. I can kind of see the faint outline of them. But we're going second floor now. And this door. No, it's the key, isn't it? Yes. Probably shouldn't have taken that, but I have to investigate this, don't I? have to look at it and figure out what the ball does. No, we don't. We don't. Right, okay. Okay. That's fine. Oh, you're going to get up and attack me, aren't you? Oh, we go drawing on the walls again? No, it's graffiti. Had a great day, by the way. I was out in the market type thing in the town square and a lot of activities with kids. Face painting, ambulance rides. Ooh, very good. Fuck you. I know you were going to get up. Can't allow it. You see, that was the one friendly one that you have to befriend, and it gives you a super cool lightsaber. And I killed him. Is Darth Vader here? Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. No. I am. Well, this is fun. That door opens. You hear this from my controller? The dogs actually come over to investigate what the fucking noise is. Well, that looks fine. James, no, don't. Oh, there's a coin. I don't like it. Someone's gonna push James. I think it's worse when it gets darker. That's extra like creepy. It does get worse when it gets darker. If only you had James, if only you had some sort of stick, someone's gonna bust on that door. Nope. Two, 1, 3, right, okay. God, it's really light. The light does nothing now. Thank you for forwarding the gifted sub.
Sorry,
Appreciate it.
We're going streaking through the quad. and
Also
into the
streaking.
gymnasium. Come on,
Amazing.
everybody.
Who'd you gift that, Dave? Marcus 1. Thank you very much for that. A key for there. Oh, shit. Shit. Look who it is. It's himself. Thank you for being a great streamer. Thank you for being a great viewer and streamer yourself. Fuck. Pyramid head. Which is not good. Not good. I don't like the threat gap yet. I don't know why James is so calm after seeing it. I suppose he doesn't know who it is yet. What is this? Something scraped along there. Right, I don't like this. I don't like it. Don't like it. Did the ongoing renovations, tenants are asked to keep out of the 3rd floor of the building. I wish I could. No, I don't have a key for that. Well, that was fun. Yeah. Oof. Who's 17? That was the one with the gun, wasn't it? Or potential gun. Oh, no evidence of guns. Plenty of fucking ammo, though. Ammo. Is that me you're looking for? Oh, I don't like it when games give you loads of ammo and health. That means something's going to go wrong. Shopping cart. With a gun. How did no one find this? I'm assuming the gun is the trigger for the next part of the game. Jesus, my phone has just shot itself. Well, it's not shot itself, it's just gone mental with updates. Boop. I'm just going to make sure to collect everything. I'm fucking shooting the walls. How did no one see this? Alright, pick it up. Aim and shoot. Right, okay. I'm assuming I go back and shoot that lock off the key. Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I can deal with it. I can deal with it. I can deal with it. It's fine. It's fine. Well, that was a fun noise. Here's all that bullshit again, right? I'm assuming this is what I'm doing. It's not what I'm doing. The waste of a bullet. Oh, fuck. Fuck. Right. We got a gun. I don't know how useful it's going to be. Because Pyramid Head just showed up. Just batter this fucking whale under. Rawr! Batman. And it's a key for 212. Where was 212? Hang on. It's just across from where I am now. Right, okay. And just across from where Deckhead was. He doesn't seem to be there now. Right, 212 is... He was just there. Fuck, I know. Right, okay. Okie dokie. Let's explore this kitchen. What we got? Health? Yes, we'll take that. What's in this room? The door. The bed. Right, we're up here now. Right, okay. Alright, so I'm going across that way. Fucking Darth Vader, I can hear him breathing. Where the fuck's that coming from? I can hear it, but I can't see it. Oh, do you see it? See it? Movement in the other room. It wasn't small. Parkour! Parkour! Why's the light on in that fridge? That's weird and creepy, isn't it? Fuck is that? That is a thing? Here's humble beginnings. 7, 6, 7. Ah! You keep your bullets cool. For some unknown reason. Yeah, there's just a pile of legs. Chris, that's what that is. That's what that bullshit is. Oh. There we go. There's some bullshit right there. No. Oh, so that works. Yark. My health tends to be going to the red quite a bit, like as soon as I get one hit. There's another one. Lovely. This game scared the piss out of me as a kid. It's fucking scaring the piss out of me now, dog. This. I'm not gonna lie. Where is it looking for me to go? Oh, up the stairs. Right, okay. Ooh, wee shortcut. Nice, not gonna complain about that. It's a squelchy room. Lovely. Toilet's fucked. Can't use it. Toilet's broke. Out of order. This whole game's out of order. Fuck. You bastard. Oh, well, it's chilling with the better half. What do you mean I'm not there, Hook? Who else could you be talking about? Mackenzie, are you with Hook? Is that what he's talking about? Right, so, I think I have to go out this door as well and explore. Welcome home! Nope, I am not. He's talking about his legal better half. How dare he? How dare he? Why did I go very, very Michael Jackson there? Hee hee. Don't his better half. Watching Leyoric stream while Mrs. Hook sits somewhere else. Right. I'm gonna keep exploring this way another wee bit. What is in this room? I'm very conscious I should maybe make my way downstairs in order to save. Because I could die at any point. Ammo. Also, that was one bullet I got off that. Why store it in a box? Hmm? That's another one of them things. You must think this cruel, but this prison is of your own making. The choice was yours. I watched you make it over and over again. This time it's not going to make any difference. I will be here watching. Okay, it's a bit creepy. Not gonna lie. That was a bit creepy. What's this? Okay, safe. Oh, right, okay. Oh, it's a bit weird. Why am I looking into some weird room? I don't like this. I don't like it. Can't really move the camera that much. So they kept that person in that prison. Can we push this out of the way? No. Oh, we can from this side. I'm going to take something before going here. Getting low on health. Getting low on health. You take a drink, James. I take a drink. We're locked then. Fuck. I don't know what the keypad is. Right, okay, let's explore the room, leave it. What do we got? What are you? Right, so I don't have the key to get out. Right, let's look. Right, what's this in the wall? Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. Right where the left where the homeward footprints are no longer in sight. Then I found home, please pray tell, on a river of memories leading to hell. Sure, that has to do with the combination, but what the fuck are they talking about? Ah, yes. Right, okay. That's the only clue we're getting. So I am going to look at my... This had a 7 on the back of it. And I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. You want the combination? No, let me think about it first. Right, so there's a 7 on that. Woodside Apartments. Demonstration note. 217, no. I don't think it's on any of those. Are you in the apartments? Yes, I'm in the apartments. Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. Left with the homeward with no owner in sight. But he has found his home, oh please, pray tell, on a river of memories leading right to hell. Someone has pooped in the toilet and not flushed. Make sure I get the right one. Want a clue? Yeah, go ahead. The solution is in the room, not in your inventory. Right, okay. Is there a light switch? What about the floor? What does the floor have on it? Just nonsense. Right, okay. Can I flush the toilet? Can I flush? Solution is in the room, not in your inventory. Oh, hold up. What's this? Is this a map? But the room isn't built current architectural standards. In fact, yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a health and safety risk. No items, but what's all these squares about? So that's how the guy was probably getting fed. Let me know when you want another clue. No, let me figure this one out. There she's bad. And I suppose he was locked in here until he figured it out. Right. Was there any other options? So I was clicking on that and I just reset. You sound like the Riddler. You want another clue, Batman? Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. Fine, I'll make it for fuck's sake. Left are homebound footprints with no owner in sight. He'd be a terrible Riddler. Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. Where the rooftops pierce through the night. It's the same as the Konami code. Clever Easter egg by Capcom. It is. They figured it out. It's not as if there's even any numbers written on the walls. It's just absolute jargon. Use the key. This is the only mappy looking thing I've seen. But even at that, there's no real numbers on it. Clue time? Yeah, give me another clue. Symbols on the walls. Symbols on the walls. You talking about like the cup that's there? Also flashlight on.
This is the worst.
It is. Pretty sure the rook and the knight are on the same wall, and the bishop and the queen are next to each other. Tomahawk, you fucking legend. Also flashlight on. I like that one. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Oh, right there we go. 7. There's a house. Right, okay. So it's homeward bound. Right, so right where the rooftops pierce through the night. So I need to find rooftops. So there's a house with 7. 7 homeward bound. Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. The rooftops. Aha! 13. Rooftops. 13. 7. Is that it? 13, 7? Oh, fucked it. Yep. Right, 13. Right, there's more to it. Right, okay. I used to puzzle in the D&D group last night. That can be dangerous though, because sometimes you might not get it. Right, so right 13, left 7. Or the river of memories leading right to his hell. So river, another right, and river. River, river, river. I was thinking this one. There's no numbers. And they kind of stand out a wee bit. There's some numbers there, but they're just in jargon. So 13 up there. River. Aha! 11. River. Right, so 13. 7, 11. Hey! Thank you, folks. And another coin. And a key. I'm playing Tormented Souls tomorrow. That's a good one. I think Ian played that one. The clues on the walls in the game. You should have mentioned that instead of being cryptic. I'll cryptic you. That is true, he will cryptic you. What am I looking at here? Is it a bug? Or is it a fucking lad? I think it might be a bug. It sounds very bug-like, doesn't it? But even at that, they can still hurt you. Fucking... That sounds about bugger, whatever that is. Nope, it's a bug. Fuckers! All of them. How mysterious. Oh, energy drink. Nice job. Right, we're going to explore a wee bit before I pick up whatever that is there. Got some ammo. Anything up here? No. That is 2F staircase key, right? Okay. I think that was the closed door from earlier. It's just locked. Right, where am I? There. And that takes me through there, back into the courtyard. That takes me down. Gone there, gone there, gone there. Right, okay. So kind of have to go back then. It's up that way. We're back in here. Let's see. Where am I? Like what there, down the staircase. Right, okay. And floor 1. Right. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. There we go. Right. Back here. And why is the door closed? I didn't close it. Who's in here? I'm Batman. I'm assuming this is where a lot of these items need to go as well. These coins. Man coin. We put the man coin in there. Man coin. His face isn't changing at all. I don't think James is even slightly phased. I don't think he cares. But you know what? That gives me a good spot to wrap up there as well. His face won't change much. Probably not. Unless it becomes Harry, then it will change quite dramatically. But yeah. That was actually really good. I enjoyed that. That was good crack. As he goes on, he looks a bit more haggard. No, wrap up. Only games. Only games? It is nearly 11 o'clock at night. But do pay attention to it. Right, okay. Does it have relevance to do with different endings and stuff? What how his face looks? 12-hour stream? Not a chance. I have a busy old day tomorrow, so I have to get to bed. Ian, thank you very much. Thank you, folks, for coming on. I had a belter night tonight. That was really good crack. But we are going to raid out. And we're actually going to raid out to Simply Mayhem, who raided us the other night when we were playing Resident Evil 2. She plays a lot of Resident Evil games, a lot of horror games, and is currently playing Dead by Daylight. So if you folks could be absolutely awesome and say hello to her, that would be much appreciated. I am going to do a raid message now in a second, but we're also going to see if he's beat the boss tonight. So it's you've beat the boss now twice. It's now gone up to level 3. So of the raid messages, top one is for followers, bottom one is for subs. The slimy boy. Slimy boy. Oh, and he's defeated you tonight. Better luck next time, folks. But we're going to raid Simply Mayhem. And if you could pop on and say hello, even just drop the wee mail message and bounce, that'd be much appreciated. She is very, very... lot of energy. But thank you again, folks. I will be back. I think it's Tuesday. Me and Hook are playing Resident Evil 5 co-op. And then Resident Evil 2 speedrun on Wednesday night. But I will chat these in. See you later, folks.